Good evening, everybody. Welcome to your City Commission meeting. This is Tuesday, February 25th, 2020. Please turn off or silence all cell phones during the meeting. Meetings are televised every day on Channel 2 at 7 p.m. and midnight and available for viewing on YouTube. What we're going to do first is the Pledge of Allegiance, so if we would stand and I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Silent meditation. Amen. First order of business is to present an award to one of our distinguished citizens. And I'm going to do that as soon as I turn
Well, yeah, follow the rules.
Sister Vicky, could I have you come up, please? Well, it's a distinct pleasure and a distinct honor to present the Mayor's Award to Sister Vicky Perkins, Sisters of Charity of Leavenworth, a woman of great faith and distinguished service to this community for many, many years, to the men, the women, the children, meeting their needs across the community, and I'm just so happy that we're able to present you with this Mayor's Award tonight, Sister Vicky.
Thank you.
And I'm going to go ahead and read it. City of Leavenworth, Sister Vicky Perkins is presented the Mayor's Award for Community Service for inspirational contributions to the City of Leavenworth through her service and dedication to those in need. Along with her exceptional service as an advocate for the less fortunate, Sister Vicky has devoted her life to education and empowering youth. Sister Vicky served as a math teacher, principal, and superintendent in the diocesan school system, as well as other assignments that required her vast experience, intelligence, and guidance. Sister Vicky has created a legacy in the community built around partnership and achievement that will be difficult to match. And dated today, February 25th, 2020, and signed by me as the mayor of the first city of Kansas, Leavenworth, Kansas. Thank you, Sister Vicky. And I also want to present you a coin of the city, from the first city of Kansas, a beautiful coin, and on behalf of all the commissioners and the city manager and staff, here's a coin, and hopefully you can remember us by that as you go about accomplishing all your great things within the city. And if you want to say a few words, that's fine. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And often in my life, I get credit for what a whole lot of other people do. And so in the name of all the wonderful, wonderful people of Leavenworth who have made the things that we've done possible, thank you for this.
Old business, consideration of previous meeting minutes. So those are the minutes from the February 11th, 2020 regular meeting. Any comments, questions, or concerns about the minutes from my fellow commissioners? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt the minutes from February 11th, 2020 regular meeting.
I second.
There is a motion and a second on this agenda item. Begin voting with Commissioner Preisinger.
Aye.
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 The ayes have it. The vote is 5-0. The motion carries and the minutes are approved. Next item of old business, second consideration ordinance 8123, an amendment to section 8-63.
Mr. Mayor and Commissioner, there have been no changes since first consideration on this item, and is before you tonight for second consideration, final adoption.
Any questions or comments on this amendment to the ordinance? If not, I'll entertain. Do we just need to just ask for a roll call vote? Okay, we need a roll call vote, so we'll begin voting with Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
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 The ayes have it, the vote is 5-0, so we've approved that, that particular agenda item. Next is new business, and this is an opportunity for public comment. Items not listed on the agenda or receipt of petitions. Would anybody from the public like to come up and speak? Representative Pittman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Commissioners. I've come back from Topeka tonight. We've been in session all day long. My voice is going today. I come here because I want to ask that the Leavenworth City Commission consider formally putting in some kind of a motion that would be in support of a new veterans home in Kansas. We've got a bill out there. It's HB 2610. It's a bipartisan bill, meaning that 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats from the House have co-sponsored this bill. And we're on the Military and Veterans Committee and have had a series of hearings over the last couple of years on what we do in the state of Kansas. We have 2 veterans homes in the state of Kansas, but they're both located in the west and the south central areas. And the majority of veterans are actually located in northeast Kansas. The homes we have, one is in Fort Dodge, and it's an old facility. Well, it's an old historic site that's been converted, and then the one in Winfield was built in the 1940s. The team that I've got, the co-sponsors, we've we've worked with and contacted Senator Moran on this, and his office seems very supportive. We've talked to the VA up in DC. Eastern VA has come out in strong support of this, as have the veteran service organizations, both locally and across the state. That would be the VFW, the American Legion, and some others. And so I'm excited about this. We have it as a bill. What happens is we have a cost share program we can take advantage of as the state of Kansas, and the federal government through the VA would pay for 65% of the costs. We would pay for 35% of the cost. The bill that we have specifies that it would be in either Leavenworth, Wyandotte, Jefferson, Douglas, or Shawnee counties. That would be basically Topeka or Leavenworth, with a possibility down in Wyandotte. And we would need to start the application process, get into the application process. It ends April 15th of 2021, so we have some lead time to get there. Once we get on the list, if we can, as a state, provide the fact that we would be willing to fund our portion of that, we get to the top of the priority of that list. We are estimating a cost in total of the construction being about $50 million. We would, as a state, either through state funding or state and some private funding, be on the hook for about $17 million. We've got it in the bill to be a bonded thing, so we could actually bond against that construction and then and basically do it that way. So I'm excited about that, and I'm just bringing that idea up to you. I think that this city would be an excellent place for it. We can do more for veterans. We can do more to have an efficient, modern facility for the veterans, and I think locally that would be very important. And so I'm just asking if maybe you could put out some type of motion of support in that, either tonight or sometime soon.
Any questions or comments for Representative Pittman?
I think, having done home care for several years, I know that it's a need. I know it's a need in this area. We have a lot of veterans that should be here, and we should have it, and I'm strongly supporting of this initiative.
Any other comments, or Commissioner
Thank you
Wilson?
for your hard work
Right.
and dedication. Yeah, definitely in support of it. It's very much needed for our community as well as throughout the state of Kansas.
Real quickly, how many beds, Representative?
That'd be about 72.
72?
We're modeling off of an average of what we saw being done in a couple of other states like Minnesota that did similar type projects.
And those that house veterans, well, we have the DOM out there, and that's a separate entity.
Right, the domiciliary, just for everybody who might be watching, is typically a substance abuse program that takes veterans from all over the nation and puts them through a pretty intensive 4-week program on a rolling basis. Some people have asked us, what about the old barracks out there? It's a possibility, but those are being remodeled, I think, and rehabbed for normal apartments.
Right.
And it's actually better for the state to take on a new facility that has modern setups with modern, like pod-type living. Makes it a better experience and more efficient in terms of the workers that need to work there.
So is it like assisted living in a sense?
It would be, yeah.
Yeah.
And this would be specifically for long-term type care.
Okay.
And is it, you said a 72 bed, so is that just one facility? or-
Yes.
Okay.
But this is all
What-
to
right.
be determined.
Well, right,
That's-
I didn't
that's
know
the base-
eventually, you know, you want
Once
to
we
have
get on
more
the
than
list
that.
and we get some of the
Right.
designs, we would specify those things,
Yep.
as well as the location. The Eastern VA healthcare system, which runs our VA and the Topeka, has said they have land, which I believe they lease from the city here in Topeka, or in Leavenworth, available, and they think they have a great site for it. But, you know, we just want to line up the ducks, so to speak.
Well, I think
Who
that's
would
wonderful.
determine the location? If it's, I know that's down the road. but
So, that's a politically divisive type thing. And in our hearings over the last couple of years in the committee, you know, there's been a lot of advocacy for a place over in Topeka that's on the VA property as well. To move this forward and actually get on the VA list, our approach is to say, let's wait. Let's design the facility, figure out if there's any kind of cost share or land donations as we get closer to the April, and maybe sponsor a study that would help determine top 2 locations, and then let the legislature maybe decide next year.
Either way, it's still a need.
Yeah.
What's the breakdown on the funding again, the 65?
65% from the VA,
Okay.
35% state and local,
Okay.
but
And-
primarily state.
Right. And is there a companion bill in the Senate, or is it just the one in the
So
House?
what we did was, we worked with some folks, and it's been introduced into Ways and Means,
Okay,
which is the Senate Appropriations Committee.
right.
The governor is supportive of it, so far as the discussions we've gone through with her, or with her staff. But I will say that there is a certain amount of stalls. It's stalled right now in the House. So we're gonna hopefully push forward in the Senate.
Okay.
We still have a whole year,
Sure.
so it's not dead. It's
Right.
just stalled out. So we can still muster local support and still do design plans perhaps with the Commission on Veterans Affairs at the state level.
Yeah, I think it's good that you got started early.
Yep.
And hearing what my fellow
Oh,
commissioners
yes.
said, I believe I can speak for the commission, is that we are very supportive. I don't know whether we'll have a motion. I don't think we'll probably take any action tonight, but I'll ask the city manager at the end of the meeting to maybe kind of give the summation or give us a review of the things that we could do. But we will support it. And
Fantastic.
whether it's in writing or some type of verbal commitment or motion at a future meeting, we'll take it up.
Fantastic. Well, appreciate the work that you guys do for our city.
Any other questions or comments? And thank you for coming tonight, Representative Pittman. Do you have anything
Thank
else
you.
for us, or?
No, I mean, there are some issues that are affecting cities and states right now.
Right.
To be aware of, but we could maybe cover those on a
Sure.
separate meeting if you want.
Okay, okay.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
So we're under general items now, new business, and the first agenda item is review unsafe and
Public
dangerous.
comment. We're still under,
Unless there's anybody else that.
Oh, I'm
Anyone
sorry.
else
Yeah,
wants to speak.
Anybody else for public comment? Anybody else for public comment? So we're finished with the new business, and we'll transition to general items. The first agenda item then is review unsafe and dangerous structures, 305 North Second, 326 Osage, and 400 North Fifth.
This will be handled by Julie Hurley, the Director of Planning and Community Development.
Okay?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you recall, starting in May of last year, the commission began reviewing a list of structures for possible demolition. A number of those structures were given several extensions to continue work on the properties. These 3 that we are looking at tonight have had a number of both 60 and 90-day extensions. The latest one was given in November. They were given a 90-day extension until this time, so we're just gonna review those. The first one is 305 North Second Street. This is a single-family house. The work is complete on it. Pictures that are up on the screen are from May and October last year respectively. And then this is current. We couldn't get a picture from the front the day that we went out. There were work trucks there working and they were blocking the front of it, but the work is complete on it. If you've been by, you can tell that it's,
Yeah, it looks very
much
good.
improved and it's in great shape, so, we would recommend that that one come off the list. The next one is 326 Osage Street. The work on this one is ongoing. Code enforcement has been in contact with the owner and they are currently actively working on getting the roof repaired, and we have seen the roof materials out there. They have not pulled a permit yet, but they are working on that. So this picture is from today. And then really kind of the biggest lingering item is that back portion of it. There's some repairs needing to be made on the roof. And while it's not completely finished at this point, it's not what we would consider demo worthy. And the few minor property maintenance type issues are something that we would suggest that we just handle through typical code enforcement activities and have it come off the list.
And the materials are out there for the roof? Or-
Yeah.
Did you talk to them and by chance see how much longer it would take them, or no?
We talked to them on Friday and we're gonna be doing it any day now. They know
Yeah.
that they need to get a permit and they know that it is up for review tonight. But they do have the materials out there.
Okay.
And they are actively working on it. We have seen the work
Oh.
continuous, be it slow, they have been making continuous progress. And again, it is at a point now that we would consider it not demo worthy and just suggest that we handle it through typical code enforcement.
Take it off, so recommendation. Take
Yeah,
it
we
off the
will
list.
have this one come off as well.
Still working
Okay.
on it.
And then the final one is 400 North Fifth Street. I believe the owner on this one was here at the meeting a couple of weeks ago. I
Yes.
wasn't present at that
Yeah.
meeting. The pictures up here are from May and August last year respectively. This is the current state of it. It has been painted. And the other major repairs have been made to it. There was if you recall, there was kind of a gaping hole on the back of it. That's been repaired. So we would suggest that this one come off the list as well. So if
They're
any
gonna be able to
questions-
take care of that brush pile, do you think, or?
Yeah, and as with most of them, there's always kind of a few minor, property maintenance.
Just thought I'd
and
bring it up.
enforcement
It's not enough to
items
keep it on the demo list, I don't think.
No, I
but,
don't think
that-
so.
We definitely always keep our eye on these.
Okay. Anything else, Ms. Hurley?
Nope, that would be.
Comments, questions from the commissioners?
No.
We,
Great. Motion.
I will entertain a motion on this particular agenda
Okay,
item.
I motion to remove listed properties from the demolition list.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and second on this agenda item. Begin voting with Commissioner Preisinger.
Aye.
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 I was gonna say, do you want to give the dates or the
Oh,
locations, so you?
Oh, should I?
Have
I
those.
can.
Go ahead, we can modify the motion. Go ahead.
You want-
Just give the
Address.
locations, right?
The
Okay,
three locations.
305 North Second Street, single-family house.
Okay.
326 Osage, single-family house, and 400 North Fifth Street, two-story residential structure.
Second. There's a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second on this particular agenda item. We will begin voting with Commissioner Preisinger.
Aye.
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 The ayes have it. Vote is 5-0. The motion carries, so we've taken these three properties off the demolition list. Thank you.
Great job,
Thanks.
team. Program did the job.
Ms. Hurley, do we have any properties still on the demo list from
No,
that?
this takes care of our 2019 demo list, and we are actively working on the next demo list. We wanted to wrap this one up
Yep.
first, so we didn't have two overlapping lists from 2 different years. So we will be bringing the next one forward to you shortly to begin on that process.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
The next agenda item is mayor's appointment to Convention and Tourism Committee. So I'm going to make a motion to appoint to the Convention and Tourism Committee, Brian Huntington, to an unexpired term ending January 31st, 2022.
Second.
There's a motion and a second on this particular agenda item. We'll begin voting with Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
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 The ayes have it. The vote is 5-0, so we've made, this motion carries, and we've appointed Mr. Brian Huntington to the Convention and Tourism Committee.
Great, be good.
The next agenda item is Resolution B 2244, 2019 KDHE Annual Report for Stormwater.
This item will be handled by Mike McDonald, the Director of Public Works.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, this is a follow-up on the review of the draft annual report that we had last week or 2 weeks ago. Since that time, staff has worked to refine some language and ensure that we have adequate documentation in the report. The report is submitted prior to February the 28th as an email to the state. This is it's much smaller than previous years because we believe the internet will probably be available for a while, and a lot of things that we have in our records here, we can post kind of some tedious documentation and link to it in the report to save such a large report. This is a report that is required to be delivered every year because we have a permit from the state through the EPA to discharge stormwater into the Missouri River. We have sent these reports in since 2003, and every 5 years they issue a new permit, and we are finishing up the permit that was issued that completed in 2019. There's a new one that began in 2020. One of the items that we have in your in the policy report as an attachment is kind of the key writing. There's the executive summary pages, and then there is what is titled topics required to be addressed as part of Part 5 of the permit. This used to be known as the final report. As we were working on that to make sure that what we were stating in particularly this Part 5 of the permit item, we realized that our goal of being able to state that we met the maximum extent practicable removal of contamination from the stormwater in Leavenworth was somewhat perhaps overstated, and I reviewed the circumstances of somewhat of the few items that really concerned me with our environmental attorney, and she noted that you could probably state that, but it's a pretty strong statement, and it may you may have to show your stuff. And I said, well, I think we've done an excellent job, and she agreed that we have. So, but we have changed the language, and I've provided this kind of replacement page that reflects. It's the under item 1. It's a bold. Is a bold paragraph that says it provide this and that and the other thing, and the statement we changed is the not bold paragraph underneath that, where we added the term. We believe that the tables support the conclusion that meaningful reduction in the discharge of pollutants has occurred. Prior to that, it said maximum extent practicable. Okay. We believe that we have done a good job, but we're not ready to make that large statement. So other than that, and a few minor supporting documentation items that go in here, we've had just a couple of comments from commissioners and staff that we've made some minor changes to the report. Staff asked that you adopt a resolution supporting this annual report. We will finish this up and get it to the state hopefully on Thursday or before.
And you had, 2 weeks ago, I think you came and briefed the draft report to us, and we went into some pretty good detail then. Right. And now the main change from that is what you just mentioned in terms of that softening the language a bit. Yes,
that's the only change that we felt needed to be addressed directly. If you have interest in the others, I got a few.
No, it's good. It's a very complete report. Any comments or questions from the commissioners for Mr. McDonald?
Yeah, I think it's just amazing that under your measurable goals, the number of visitors that came to the website, 322 views with 11,000 views on the solid waste. That's a lot of views.
Yes, it is.
Well,
That's
I
good.
think
And that was was that on the old website?
No, the new
one. The new- that was on the new one.
That's
Okay,
really
the
only
new
6
one.
months
Okay.
worth of.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's
it's
great.
not even a full year.
Okay.
And
Anyway,
that's
yeah.
one of the great benefits of the new webpage is there's much better
User-friendly.
tracking of the statistics for us.
It's very comprehensive, too, in terms of the documents and material that are on that webpage. Any other comments or questions for Mr. McDonald on this agenda item?
No.
If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we adopt Resolution B 2245, the 2019 KDHE Annual Report for Stormwater.
Second.
there's a motion and a second on this particular agenda item. We are going to begin voting with Commissioner Preisinger.
Aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it, the vote is 5-0, the motion carries, so we've approved the report. Thank you, Mr. McDonald, to you and your staff.
Thank you.
Good job. Next is consider purchase of Parks and Recreation Department vehicles.
This item will be handled by Brian Bailey, the Park Superintendent.
Hello, Mr. Bailey, how are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, tonight I bring before you the 2020 truck replacement for Parks. The Parks and Rec Department is requesting approval of a 2020 Ford Super Duty F-350 4x4 with the Weather Guard cab guard and one 2020 Ford F-150 XL 4x4 with the Weather Guard cab guard manufactured and furnished to our specifications using the Cooperative Purchasing Program authorized by our city's purchasing policy. In 1999 and 2001, our department bought truck 334 and truck 335. This is a picture of truck 334. This truck is used mainly to go around from park to park locations, picking up trash, cleaning restrooms. We pull small equipment with this, such as push mowers and stripers to stripe ball fields and soccer fields and so forth. And this truck here has over the last few years started to have quite a few expensive repairs. We're having a hard time getting parts for it. We had to order a seat for it recently, and we couldn't get a new seat. We had a hard time finding a seat from the junkyard. So it's just it's really old in age. The next one is truck 335. This is a smaller truck that we use, and it's seen its lifetime too. The inside's falling apart, the seats are falling, the floor's falling out of it.
Yeah,
So we're,
it has been well used.
it's been well used as well, yeah.
well, it's 20 years old.
Yeah, I
Right,
know.
yeah, they're both right at the 20-year mark. So after reviewing purchasing options, the department staff selected the Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Program. This program is used throughout the region to purchase of transportation equipment. This program allows us to purchase equipment that meets our needs through a manufacturer with proven record of customer service in the Kansas region, and it also ensures we receive the best possible price, guaranteed that at the government purchasing level. Staff has developed a set of specifications that would replace truck 334 and 335. This is the truck that would replace 335. It's a F-350. That is a similar picture to what we would get. It's not the exact truck we would get. So until our truck is built, we wouldn't have the exact picture. The other one here is an F-150, and it is close to what we would get too. One of the things that's not on this picture is the cab guard that goes across the back windshield, so when you're carrying materials and supplies, it doesn't break the back window.
Right.
So the trucks on the Sourcewell Cooperative bid that meet these requirements are the 2020 Ford Super Duty F-350 XLT 4x4 with the Weather Guard cab in the amount of $38,019. The Ford F-150 XL 4x4 with the Weather Guard cab guard in the amount of $30,822 for a combination total of $68,841. Staff recommends the purchase of the one 2020 Ford Super Duty F-350 XLT 4x4 with the Weather Guard cab guard and one 2020 Ford F-150 XL 4x4 with the Weather Guard cab guard and the total amount of $68,841 from Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Quote ID 12454R5 and ID 12819R3. There's a 68,000 allocated for this in the 2020 CIP, and we request the purchase of these two vehicles. Do you have any questions?
Questions or comments from
So
commissioners?
the 350 is a bigger, I understand they're bigger, beefier truck.
It is.
Okay.
Use that for the heavier jobs?
Heavier job.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
we have the big Jacobson mower, and John Deere mower. We also have the leaf vacs that we go around and suck up the leaves with in the parks. This truck would help handle those heavy.
Is the 350, is it a diesel?
It is not, it's a
Okay,
gas.
just gas, yeah.
Good question.
Just a
Go ahead,
quick
Mr.
question. I know that we're using National Auto Fleet or Sourcewell now. Does that mean that we're no longer quoting on local car dealerships, or we'll be buying all of our vehicles through this?
No, not exclusively. We do it sort of on a case-by-case basis. We've found that it is much more efficient, and haven't had the best luck with the other methods. So we've been going to this more, you're right.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that this is all we're doing.
Okay, just out of curiosity.
I don't think, it doesn't look like there's much useful life value left on the old trucks, so they just, once these trucks come in, we're just gonna just,
So once we have the new trucks on hand, the old trucks will go to Purple Wave and they'll be auctioned off.
Oh, okay.
and what timeline are we talking about if assuming we approve this tonight?
It's about a 6-month turnaround time. It takes a
okay.
little time to get them.
Okay.
But there's pretty good savings going through the Sourcewell cooperative purchasing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Having
If you-
priced
if-
trucks recently, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's true, right.
If you look online, if you
That
can
is
go to the
pretty
Ford
good.
dealership webpage, you can, make a truck, basically, build a truck.
Hmm.
If we were to do that off that Ford webpage, the F-350 would be somewhere around 46,000.
Yeah.
The F-150 would be 35,000. So there's quite a bit of savings there going this
good.
route.
Good. Any other questions or comments for the staff?
No.
If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the bid in the amount of $68,841 from Sourcewell to purchase the Ford Super Duty F-350 and the 2020 Ford Super Duty F-350 and the 2020 Ford F-150 as presented.
I second.
Okay. There's a motion and a second for this particular agenda item. We're going to begin voting with Commissioner Preisinger.
Aye.
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 The ayes have it. The vote is 5-0. The motion carries, so we've approved the purchase of these two new vehicles for a total price of $68,841.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Next is consider approval of design contract with Affinis for 2020 pavement management program.
Mr. Mayor and Commission, this item will be handled by Mike McDonald, our Director of Public Works, and I'd also like to invite up Kristen Leathers from Affinis.
Okay.
And have her sit at the table as Mike goes through this item.
Okay. How you doing? Good to see you again.
Nice to see you.
Just admiring that new truck.
Go ahead, Mr. McDonald. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the recommendation for approval of the design contract with Affinis for the 2020 pavement management program. I would back up just a little bit and say that this is a continuation of work that we started in 2016, where we had the Stantec digital scan of the streets. We identified where our strengths and our weaknesses were. In the last 3 years, we did a substantial series of granite seal and quite a bit of work on 20th Street to try to catch the mid-level streets from getting worse. Beginning this year, the commission has provided additional funding, and we've reviewed kind of the strategies with Affinis on what to do next. And we rescanned the streets again in 2019, and we are reviewing the data from Stantec and how it compared to 2016 as a guide for where we're going to go, based our recommendations on some factual data. I say objective data more so than oftentimes subjective. The goal for the next pavement management program is really to look out about 3 years as kind of a strategy for what we need to do to maintain or improve our street quality, raise the pavement condition number up from its current number. And we have also absorbed a need to work on city parking lots. We discussed the 2 parking lots with the commission, and the proposal this evening includes design of those. We'll know more on the actual cost of those. If we choose to do just one or we choose to do both, we'll have that discussion prior to going out to bid. But working with Kristen and with her firm, we believe that we can develop a recommendation of strategy for approaching 3 years of investment, identify the streets and design the streets for the 2020 program, essentially by having the streets or the plans done middle of April, and hopefully bids open at the middle of May. And there's a kind of a broad project budget of, if we did both parking lots, our estimate was about $185,000. There's some other costs in there, but our initial look is about $1,650,000 for projects focused on something that's not granite seal. It's probably going to be some more paving or mill and overlay than we've seen in the previous few years. We're off of 20th Street. We've got additional resources, and we expect to make a substantial improvement in the community with this.
Any questions or comments for Mr. McDonald?
I have a question. Are we still looking to do the granite seal this year? Or we're not?
There are some areas of granite seal where it didn't stick well. We're going to go back and repair with something. We're not totally sure what yet, but there's no new large granite seal as part of this program in 2020.
Okay.
I don't know if you're seeing this, but to me, what I'm seeing is that where the streets are flat doesn't seem to be a problem. It's where there are ditches along the side, you don't have any
Shoulder?
Yeah, and they seem to be crumbling, as you probably have seen too.
Yes.
Along the edges, so I'm wondering
A lot of the
if it's too stiff for the freezing thawing. I don't know.
I think on the smaller streets that have no shoulders, a lot of what you see is the evolution of the street as it was constructed over, say, the last 70 years. Originally, it was narrow, and it's been widened at some time, and it's different materials in the center of the street, and it's from the edges.
Okay.
And then we have gone back through and done a variety of things. We've chip sealed or we've paved it, so it looks the same on the surface, but it acts differently underneath. And that is typically in this wet of a miserable winter, you get some water in there that manifests itself in some failures, and the center of the road will look greatly different than the edges.
It just
And I think
erodes it.
It's an indication that the street was built more than one time. The center was probably built 50, 60, 70 years ago, and then 30, 40 years ago it was widened. And so it just reacts differently to the stress.
So maybe the granite seal doesn't work everywhere. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the granite seal is to keep the water from basically getting into the cracks in the surface of the pavement.
Okay.
If the underlying pavement is flawed sufficiently that it's going to crack, you're going to get water in that. The granite seal is very cost effective per square foot for what it does, but it does not add a lot of structural strength. If you've got water in your pavement and the cracks, it will do a decent job of sealing it. It won't seal 100% of them. If the street's bad underneath, it will not fix it. So we're going to look at trying to raise the overall pavement rating. The worse the street is, the more it costs to bring it up. So it's very easy to spend 3 or 4 times fixing a really bad street as a marginal street to bring it, get it to good for another 10 years. We're going to have a strategy of some sort to recommend the commission how to approach that and identify projects with that strategy.
I just wanted, and it's in Mr. McDonald's policy report, but just, the commission in 2019, we increased funding for the pavement management program beginning in 2020 and for future years. So the total design, construction, inspection budget for the 2020 program is $2 million with a focus on more structural repairs, which, and you may have said that and I missed it, but that is part of your policy report. And I just wanted to emphasize that. And the design work, will it be on streets and or roads that will be dealt with in 2020 or 2021?
Generally, we're gonna look at what we think we're gonna have to deal with and how we're gonna deal with it 3 years. We will identify the streets that we're gonna do in 2020.
3 year, yeah.
And we rethink the process every year.
Okay.
Because we have the 2 million for this year.
Yes.
Right, well,
Yeah,
minus
we
the
full-
97,000.
Yeah, we fully intend to spend every penny of this.
Sure.
fixing
Yeah, that-
Things this year. And-
Right.
But there's no lack of projects.
Yeah,
after this.
desperately.
Okay, so yeah, that's looking out 3 years for our road requirements in terms of improving our roads. That's what this design contract that we're looking at, and hopefully
Yeah,
we'll,
it will not design the second and third years. It's more of
Okay.
a method to identify the scope of the problem and then
I see.
how we're going to approach it. Certainly the first year. There may
Okay.
be a 5-year project, maybe a 5-year
Okay.
problem, and we're gonna talk about a 3-year lookout
3 years of
and
it.
deal with what we're gonna do in 1 year.
okay. Okay, any other questions or comments for Mr. McDonald? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I move approval of the design services contract with the Finis for the 2020 pavement management program.
Second.
Do we need to say not to
Oh,
exceed?
I'm sorry, not to exceed $1,980,000.
No,
This is just the
97.
design.
Okay. 97. No, it's 97,000.
I'm sorry.
We're here to help one another, right? No, that's
Yeah,
fine.
wow.
Then we won't have any money to fix any streets.
I was ready to move on. Okay.
Big bonus for you this year.
Yeah.
I move, it changes again.
Sure.
I move approval of the design services contract with the Finis Corporation in the amount not to exceed $97,590 for
Second.
the 2020 pavement program.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second for this particular agenda item. We are going to begin voting with Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
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 The ayes have it. The vote is 5-0. The motion carries. So we've approved the design services contract with the Finis Corporation in an amount not to exceed $97,590. So thank you very much, and
Thank you.
Oh, man.
Not getting a million.
Thank you all very
Yeah,
much.
thank
I
you.
appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Fraction, appreciate being able to work with you.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Man,
Okay.
right here.
Next is, hold on. First consideration ordinance authorizing construction of stormwater utility system improvements and financing the costs with temporary financing and/or general obligation bonds.
Mr. Mayor and Commission, as you'll recall over the last 12 months, as we've been talking about stormwater projects, 2 that we have gone from study to design to acceptance by the commission are the multifaceted system at Second and Chestnut, which Second and Chestnut is very expansive throughout the entire neighborhood, our largest project in this very new program. And then also the project at Independence Court, which is at its base a stream erosion project or a creek erosion project, but there's a city sewer line that is in danger of that erosion, critical city infrastructure. In order, the city brings in about 1.3 million annually in our stormwater fee. These projects together come in at over $3 million. So in order to do a program or projects like this, the only way to do it is to bond it, is to borrow the money and pay it back over time. So this tonight is the first step to authorize the issuance of these bonds for those 2 projects. The breakdown of those projects, roughly on cost, is $685,000 for the Independence Court project and $2.415 million for the Second Chestnut Stormwater project. We don't have the final numbers yet because they're still under design, the Second and Chestnut one is. And so what we would do is issue temporary notes and then eventually go to full bonds, most likely. But the number that you have tonight is a not to exceed amount for those 2 projects. I do want to note that how we pay off those bonds is the stormwater fee. So if we bring in 1.3 million, roughly using round numbers, a year for the life of these bonds, which I believe will probably be 15-year bonds, a number, pick a number, 300,000 a year will be subtracted to pay for these projects. So really going forward, as these two projects go forward, our number will be closer to 1 million a year available for our orange fence projects and our other large projects that we do around the city. That's the trade-off. You pay the debt to do these larger projects. Both these projects have been to the city commission multiple times, and so if you have any questions on those individual projects or how we're financing those projects, I'm available to answer those, and Mr. McDonald as well.
That's a good explanation in terms of the debt and how our stormwater fee works, how it will work to pay off the debt for these bonds. That's a good explanation and very understandable. Any comments or questions for the city manager on this particular agenda item? I had one thing. Oh, no, I would just say that both projects, I don't have any questions about the projects. We've gone over them in great detail in last year in 2019, and I think on the Chestnut, a couple of weeks ago, we got a good update on that, and that's a very, that's a very significant, both of them are very significant, but particularly Chestnut and Second Street. So if not, do we have a consensus to place the ordinance on first consideration?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay, yes, we have that consensus, so we'll move forward on that. And I believe the next agenda item is part of our consent agenda. Yes, consent agenda, Commissioner Leonhard.
Okay. I move to approve claims for February 8th, 2020 through February 21st, 2020 in the amount of $881,051.49. Net amount for payroll number 4, effective February 14th, 2020 in the amount of $328,563.11. No police and fire pension.
Is there a second?
Second.
There is a motion and a second on this consent agenda item. Begin voting with Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
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 The ayes have it. The motion carries. The vote is 5-0, and so we've approved the consent agenda for this particular meeting. Thank you, Commissioner Leonhard. I think that's it for the agenda items, so we're going to go around the horn, and I'll start off with the city manager.
Yeah, 2 items. Based on individual correspondence with the commissioners, I believe that if there's a consensus tonight, we'll do our goal setting on Wednesday, April 8th from 1 to 5 here in the commission chamber. And so if there's no,
Is that
Sounds good.
good with me?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson, you good with that?
Thank you.
Okay, all right.
okay. And then the second thing is following on Representative Pittman's advocacy of the Veterans Home. I believe that the commission's action tonight and what I saw, there is consensus from the commission to support the Veterans Home. I won't bring it back as an individual item. I'll use that consensus as a blanket consensus to both use it at the state level and federal level.
Yeah.
Mayor Griswold and I did meet with Eastern VA Representative Joe Burke, the communications director for that, and they are strongly supportive of this. So you'll see it when I bring the federal legislative program back to you in a couple weeks for our DC trip when we go. Unless there's any objections, I have direction of full support, whether it's written, verbal, or legislative, both state and federal, on our full support for a Veterans Home.
Yes.
And I think Senator Moran isn't he the chairman of the Veterans?
Yeah, and he is on top of this
Veteran
as
Affairs
well.
Committee?
So we'll signal our support for that to his office this week.
Okay,
So
okay, very good. Good to go.
When is
Commissioner,
when is your trip?
Yeah, when is your
we
trip?
leave March 29th and meet with all of our legislators and VA and the Pentagon as well.
And how was your last trip? I don't know.
Oh, the installation innovation. Yeah, sure. I'll give a wrap up of that. So just briefly, the city of Leavenworth is a member of the Association of Defense Communities. That is a group of cities across the country who have a military installation either within their corporate limits or adjacent to their corporate limits. And this is all those city managers. I was accompanied by our garrison commander, Colonel Harry Hung, came with me as well. And we attended sessions over 2.5 days about how cities and their installations are partnering together, how they were, I think the big push this year, and the thing that I would note is the Army has really renewed their focus on quality of life, spouse employment, which I'm proud to say we are involved in with the Military Spouse Economic Empowerment Zone, childcare, and housing, working with the community to improve the quality of life for the soldiers. So that was a couple takeaways of that is we are working with the Ford on some off-post childcare. We actually have a meeting Friday with a private provider that the Ford has identified, and we've identified some real estate opportunities for them in town. So we're facilitating those meetings between the Ford and our development community. So that's a good first step. We met that provider at the conference, so that was a good match, I think. So it was productive and a good use of my time.
Good. Commissioner Wilson, do you have anything?
Yes,
for-
this upcoming Friday at 7 p.m., the American Legion Post 94 will be having a Black History celebration, and the guest speaker will be Chaplain Sullivan, and the address is located 215 Maple Street,
What time is that again?
7 p.m.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay.
And
Commissioner
my
Leonhardt?
birthday coming up.
You got a birthday?
It's Thursday.
Thursday.
Well, we're really glad about that, because you keep the median age down of the when you celebrate
33.
birthdays. So-
33.
All right, Commissioner.
You gotta be the youngest, don't you? Yeah.
Commissioner Leonhardt, anything?
No, I don't have anything. at this time.
Commissioner Preisinger?
I have nothing.
Commissioner Bowder? I just have two quick things. This morning, I had the opportunity to attend the 59th Annual Greater Kansas City Mayor's Prayer Breakfast. The two chiefs, Kitchens and Birch, attended along with me. It was well-organized, well-attended, and a very enjoyable event. Dustin Colquitt, the chief's longtime punter and place kicker, was the guest speaker. Gave a good talk, integrated some humor into his presentation. Of course, I think his family is, between himself, his brother, and his father, they have, I think, 4 Super Bowl rings. So it's kind of interesting, bit of tidbit for the NFL. And then I had the opportunity to meet some of the other mayors beforehand and compare notes. And we talked about the joys and challenges of holding elective office. So I got a lot out of the mayor's prayer breakfast, and it was a good event. And then finally, we have supporting, just a little plug for the performing arts within the city of Leavenworth. This weekend, the River City Community Players have their play, Something's Afoot, at our city's Hollywood Theater, which is a great venue that belongs to the city and that we rent to the River City Community Players. But just getting that out there to the citizens, if you want a very economical cost as far as performing arts and having a good time, this Friday, 28th, Saturday, the 29th, and then, 29th, and then I guess the 1st of March would be Sunday, so.
Matinee, yeah.
Matinee. So other than that, if there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second. There's a motion and a second to adjourn this evening's meeting. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it, motion carries, so we are adjourned.